Boys and girls, today for reading, we will be understanding characters. Let's take a look at our objectives. We are learning to describe in depth a character in a story by drawing specific details in the text. Let's think back to last week. What do we know about character traits already? Pause here to think of that. And go ahead and type it into the private comments. Alright, we know that character traits describe a character's personality overall, and not their emotion in the moment. We also know that they can change over time as a result of plot events. Let's think of the Grinch, for example. How was he in the beginning of the movie? And how did his personality change by the end of the movie? Pause here and think of that. That's right. In the beginning, he was, well, a Grinch. He was miserable, rude, easily annoyed, and hated Christmas. But by the end of the movie, his personality has changed. He learned that the reason why he was such a Grinch was because he was lonely. And through his friendship with Cindy Lou Who, he has changed to be a happy individual, one that enjoys friendships and is caring. Let's take a look at character traits, the difference between external character traits and internal character traits. External traits are adjectives that describe the outside traits, what you see with your eyes, such as physical appearance or your looks. This includes height, hair, eyes, clothes, facial expression, size, etc. So if we take a look at this diagram here, and we're looking at this girl's external traits, we can take a look at this chart here to describe her as short, blonde-haired, she wears glasses, she has a pink and white shirt, and that she's smiling. Now, internal traits are the adjectives that describe your inside traits or your personality traits. It describes what we learn about a person based on what they say, do, think, and feel. Once again, the internal traits describe a character's personality. If we got to know this girl here, we might learn that she's brave, funny because she cracks jokes all the time, outgoing because she's always trying something new, caring because she helps her friends study for a test, honest because she told the teacher she forgot to do her homework, or even studious, one who studies a lot to get an A on her test. This character traits chart here can help you if you're stumped in thinking of some external traits or internal traits. Feel free to pause here to look over some of these traits. Don't forget that these are just some examples and you can use many more. In the private comments, I want you to use this chart to describe one external trait of yourself and one internal trait. Now let's take a look at determining character traits. We can once again take a look at physical features, the external traits, by describing what characters look like. We can also analyze their speech and think about what do the characters say. We can analyze their actions. What do the characters do? We can even analyze what other characters say. What are the opinions that other characters have about them? If we take a look at these things, we can correctly identify a character's trait. And if we put these all together, thinking about how they change from the beginning of a text to the end of a text, we can understand the character's growth. How has that character evolved or changed? let's take a look at identifying physical features. We have Russell here and Mr. Fredrickson here. Let's focus on Russell. What does he look like? How does he dress? Was he born like this? And what do these things reveal about the character? Go ahead and pause right here to think about these questions for Russell, then we'll talk about it. Well, I can use some external traits to describe that he's smiling and has brown hair. That's something he's born with. The things that he's not born with is that he's dressed up in a Scout's uniform. This tells me that he is a hard-working, young, and adventurous little kid. And I know that he's hardworking because I see all of these badges that he has earned. Analyzing speech. How does the character speak? What does the character say? What does the character say about themselves? And what does the character say about others? Analyzing actions. What does the character do? Why does the character do this? And what are their motivations behind it? What are their goals? How do they treat others? Do you boys and girls know who this character is? That's right. This is the evil queen from Snow White. What does this evil queen do throughout the text? Why does she do it, or what's her motivation? What's her goal? How do they treat others? Pause here to think about these questions for the evil queen from Snow White. Well, this character often tries to hurt or kill Snow White. She does this because she wants to be the fairest lady in all the land, and her stepdaughter, Snow White, is the only one that surpasses her good looks and is the fairest lady of all the land. That's what motivates her to harm Snow White. Thinking of these actions, I definitely would not say that the evil queen is caring and bubbly. I would say that she's, well, evil, malicious, jealous even. That would describe her personality. Determining what others say. What do others say about the character? What speech do they use? Or dialogue? How do others react to the character throughout their body language? You can learn a lot about what a character is thinking and feeling based on how they're standing or posing themselves. Somebody here scratching their head would show that they're confused. Somebody throwing their arms up in the air would be excited. Someone with their hands on their head would be like, oh no, and worried about something. Somebody with their legs up and arms behind their back or their head shows that they're relaxing. Take a look at this picture here from Frozen 2. If we look at Elsa's body language, how would you describe her right now? Yeah, I would say that she's worried or even confused. What about Anna? Look at her. She's slouched over, her hands out, her eyebrows furrowed. How would you describe her emotions right now? That's right. She looks worried. She looks like she's pleading with Elsa to do something. This can help me to understand that Elsa's character traits are that she's not confident or that she's confused. But as we know, characters can grow. Take a look at the body language here. They both are standing tall. Smiles are on their faces. twirling around. This shows me that they're happy. And by Elsa standing very tall, it shows that she's gained some confidence. So what does the character learn about themselves? How did the character change? Does the character become a better person? Or does the character become worse? What do you think about Elsa? I would definitely say she has grown for the better. As we said before, she has more confidence. She learns by the end of the movie that she can control her powers and that she can use her powers for good. Now let's practice here. We're going to think about Kara's parents from the Basil text we read this week, Dear Mr. Winston. We're going to describe Kara's parents with some adjectives and then support that with text evidence. But first, I would like to go ahead and reread this page here. Dear Mr. Winston, my parents said that I have to write and apologize. Dad says he is going to read this letter before it's sent and that I'd better make sure my apology sounds truly genuine. So I am truly, genuinely sorry for bringing that snake into the library yesterday. My parents say that what I did was wrong, even though the cardboard box was shut most of the time. And there was no way that snake could have escaped if you hadn't opened the box and dropped it on the floor. My parents say it's my fault for having brought that snake into the library, and I truly, genuinely apologize. But I still don't know how I was supposed to find out what kind of snake I had inside that box without bringing the snake right into the library, so I could look at snake pictures and then look at the snake and try to find a picture that matched the snake. So how would we describe Kara's parents' personality? A character trait that I would give them is empathetic. My text evidence is that they are making Kara write a letter to apologize to Mr. Winston, and that they tell her what she did was wrong. So not only are they empathetic themselves, but they want to foster empathy in their own child by explaining to her what she did wrong. Another character trait I would give Kara's parents are responsible. They are going to check the letter to make sure that it is genuine. They're not just having their daughter write a letter or put it in the mail without even reviewing it. Another piece of the evidence from the text is that they are not taking her side just because that it's her daughter. They're making sure that she does the right thing. This shows responsibility. Now let's go ahead and describe Mr. Winston's personality traits. I'm going to reread this page from the text here, and we'll come up with some character traits and text evidence to support that. I did tell you that I didn't need any help, and I did have a snake book open in front of me, so I don't know why you insisted on looking inside the box if you were so afraid of snakes and everything. I don't know why you picked up that box before opening a flap either. If you had left the box on the table and maybe even sat down next to it, then maybe the box would have been all right when you screamed and fainted. You wouldn't have fallen so far either if you were sitting down. Did you know that you broke out in a rash after you fainted? I thought a person had to touch something like poison ivy to get a rash. I didn't know it was possible to get a rash by just thinking about something. But my parents say it really can happen. I think maybe you did touch something. Maybe when you were lying on the floor, that snake slithered over to you and touched you. Did you know that snake skin feels dry, not wet and slimy at all? I just thought of something. Maybe everyone's looking in the library for that snake, but it's not in the library. Maybe it crawled into one of your pockets or up your sleeve and rode with you to the hospital. Wouldn't that be funny? Why don't you get one of those nurses to check? If it's not in your clothes, it might have crawled out. It might be hiding inside the hospital someplace. I think people should be looking there too. Boys and girls, how would you describe Mr. Winston with a personality character trait? Pause here to think about that. And can you find some text evidence to support that? You can even type it in the private comments. This is how I would describe Mr. Winston. He's considerate. And I know this because Kara says she didn't ask for help, but he came over anyway. That shows consideration and wanting to help others. Another piece of text evidence to support this character trait is that Kara says she doesn't know why he looked in the box if he was afraid of snakes. I mean, he did see that snake booklet there. He looked in the box to see if there's any way that he can help her. I would also describe him as terrified or even petrified of snakes. Some text evidence to support this is that he screamed and fainted when he opened the box. Once he saw that snake, he just couldn't control it. He just fainted. Also, Kara described the rash that he broke out in just by thinking about the snake, not even touching it. That shows that he is petrified. It's now your turn, boys and girls. Use the text and our discussions to create a character map for Kara. I want you to go ahead and list 2 character traits that describe Kara's personality. Make sure to support it with text evidence.